Everybody. I want to talk about a concept today that I've been working on for the last, thinking about for the last couple of weeks. It's basically a validation concept for startups. So I'm a big believer in validation. I wasted 9 months of my life on a startup once, and I'm never going to let that happen again. And by validation, what I mean is what small things can be done at the beginning of the life cycle of building a business to validate whether or not people want what you're about to build, that your assumptions are correct, basically validating that what you think will happen will actually happen without spending a ton of time and money and all this other stuff. So what had happened is I was at a cafe in Munich with a friend of mine and a guy that we both kind of advise. And over the course of lunch, I realized that, I mean, I'm working on a couple of startup ideas and I was bouncing, getting their feedback. And I was a friend of mine, I was giving him feedback. We were both giving the other guy feedback as well. And what I realized is that experienced entrepreneurs do this. They have access to other people that have a bit of knowledge, that have been successful before. So if they have questions, they have somebody to stress test those ideas off of. But if you're a novice entrepreneur, you don't always have that. I mean, you can try to get access to people that have been there and done that before, but those people are usually so busy, it's really quite difficult. And every experienced entrepreneur I know has other experienced entrepreneurs around them. They've got advisors, they've got mastermind groups. It's second nature that you stress test your ideas off of other people that think, that are smart in that area, that have experience, and it's a serious problem, I think. So I started asking myself, like, I kind of had an epiphany, like, why can't we offer this same level of mentorship and stress testing to everybody? You can go to meetup groups and you can do things like that. The problem with meetup groups for me is always that they invite successful entrepreneurs there, but then this successful entrepreneur stands up and talks for 10 or 15 minutes about, look at all of these great things that I've done in the past and how awesome I am. And I'm not, I mean, I'm part of, I've fallen prey to this myself as well, but it's not particularly useful for people that are there trying to figure out how to build their first successful business. So they go, they do a little bit of networking. It's very difficult often to get access to the person who gave the talk because they're constantly surrounded by people. So I really kind of struggled to say, like, how can we flip this into a way that we can do, that we can give this kind of personalized feedback to a larger group of people. So one of the main problems that novice entrepreneurs have is that they fall prey to what's called the false dilemma. If you tell them, here are two different options. Here, you want to build a business and you want to validate the fact that customers actually want what you're going to build before you go out and raise the money and waste all of your time. Here are two techniques you can go to use to do that. If you just tell them about the two techniques, people are usually pretty good. They can research the different options. They can talk to people. They can do they do a lot. Like, people are willing to work. The problem is that a lot of times they don't even realize that a certain option is available. They analyze A versus B without realizing that C is even an option. So I came up with this concept called, it's probably goofy actually, but hidden boats. So the idea is that you're standing on one side of a river. The other side of the river represents a successful business or whatever. And you say to yourself, okay, I can swim across this river. Let me go and research the survival rate of people that have tried to swim across rivers, the people that have tried to swim across this particular river. Maybe I can take a class on swimming that helps me to swim across this river. Or maybe I can build a bridge. I could try to go out and raise money to help me build the bridge. I can research what type of bridge. I can research the success rate of building bridges. Maybe I can take a class on bridge building in general. Maybe I can take a class on building this particular type of bridge. I mean, you can see where I'm getting at. And this is where all the startup and business advice comes from, the researching on the different areas. But what they don't realize is there's a boat behind the tree. They can just hop in the boat, row across, and they're there. And when you have access, it's very easy to say this right now, knowing that there's a hidden boat behind the tree. But if you're a novice entrepreneur, you don't always know where it is. And to bring it down to a more concrete, tactical level, these boats are things like the build, measure, learn loop from Lean Startup. If you're somebody who's never heard of the build, measure, learn loop, and you're trying to build a piece of software, you'll probably do waterfall development. You'll write everything and then hit a button and see if it works. Whereas we know today that that's not the best way to write software, and it's not the best way to create a business. Concierge MVP, landing page tests, split tests, customer development. These are all hidden boats. And the problem a lot of people have is that they read about these concepts in books, they read about them in articles, but they don't see how it's tactically done. They don't see like the exact examples of actually doing this. So my idea is, why don't we get a group of experienced entrepreneurs into a room and then invite a whole bunch of anybody else who basically wants to be there, and we do public sessions of analyzing people's ideas. So I set up a meetup group. We're going to meet in Munich in a few days for the second time. And the idea is that we invite a few people, everybody comes in and they say, hey, this is my business idea. This is what I'm trying to validate right now. And this is what I've tried to do so far. And then basically the experts, and then everybody else in the room, basically, we have like a roundtable discussion talking about how could that person validate it. And then even if you're somebody who has a completely different business idea, if you hear about the way that these things are applied over time, it starts to give you frames of reference that you can use down the road to test your own ideas. So a really quick example, I was mentoring at the Lean Startup Machine, and somebody had an idea where they wanted to do a haunted walking tour through Marienplatz or something like that. And their initial idea was, okay, how do we test this? How do we test that people care about having a haunted walking tour through Marienplatz? Initially, they were like, okay, well, we have to go out and buy a bunch of headsets. We're going to have to record a haunted walking tour. Let's see what we can do. And my recommendation was, why don't you do a concierge MVP? And for those of you who aren't familiar, concierge MVP is just doing something as a service that eventually you'll be able to automate later, automate through other means. So what I had recommended was, why don't you go out there with a sign saying that you're selling haunted walking tours, wait for people to come up and engage you. That's really the only thing you're trying to measure in this instance anyway. And then if you want to actually see what the process is like, just walk with them. Tell them we do one-on-one walking tours and walk alongside them and verbally give them the tour as just an idea of validating whether or not there's demand and seeing what people react to and what they don't. And that was an example of concierge MVP, and they went and did it, and it allowed them to more quickly collect feedback about that idea. So lots of people have heard about concierge MVP, but maybe a lot of people haven't seen it applied in a specific context. If we were at the Hidden Boats meetup and somebody had given that back, that's now a frame of reference for every other startup idea one may have. So we're going to try to run it again in a few days, and it's still an experiment for us as well. David and I actually trying to run this. But if anybody wants to come along, like we highly encourage it, and hopefully some people get some benefit out of it.